Welcome to Wrestling and Everything, Coast to Coast, with your hosts, Buddy Sotello, Esquire, Mike Lano, Evan Ginzburg, and some very, very special guests to start off 2022. Would you like to introduce our guest tonight?
Sure. We have Alfred Pasard, who is a podcaster, editor, commentator, ring announcer, former referee, and host of the hip-hop show Rap Lab Podcast. And we also have, from Men on a Mission, Oscar, whose rap name is Casanova Ace, and we'll be showing his latest video, later in the show. And of course, Dr. Mike Lano, Buddy Sotello, and myself. How's everybody doing tonight?
All right. Thank you for having us.
Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Same.
So a lot of things happened to wrap the year up. 2021 probably wasn't positive for absolutely everyone. I know you were, Alfred, you were recovering from a COVID infection that, almost got you in 2020. That's when we last talked. And or was it in early 2021? I think that we.
No, you got the timeline right.
Yeah. And it, as I was saying to some friends of mine, 2020 and 2021 was the longest decade of my life.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's its own decade, even though it was only 2 years, So I'm hoping for a lot more positive things that are going to occur for us in 2022. So,
hey, buddy, Alfred was connected to a ventilator. Talk about a rough stretch, right, Alfred?
Yeah, it was pretty rough. I'm glad I'm far beyond those bad times now.
You look a lot better, by the way.
Yeah, you look great for that COVID.
Thank you.
Tell us about your recovery and what it's taken to get back to where you're at now.
So I was doing prior to the pandemic, I was doing a lot of refereeing on a Northeast indie circuit. Can't referee anymore because the COVID left me with a significant amount of lung damage, but it's like a kind of like blessing in disguise because I've transferred over to doing some commentary. So my background in podcasting and broadcasting actually helped me out with that. So it's like a blessing in disguise. One door closes, another one opens,
Since you mentioned it, talk about Rap Lab Podcast.
So I host the Rap Lab Podcast with a few friends of mine. My friends are Rev Barber, QG, and T.O. And every week, new episodes come out on Sunday. We just had one today. We talk to people that are in hip hop, whether they're producers, artists, executives. And then if there's nobody to talk to, we'll go over the latest hip hop headlines, or we'll do like a nostalgia piece where we'll do like an album review or an event review or like if there's an anniversary of something that occurred, we'll go ahead and reminisce and talk about it.
Where do you guys rate DMX among the greats? He recently passed.
Oh yeah, he's in our top 50 list. We actually did the week that he died, we did a DMX tribute episode. So that's in our archives. That's available on Apple and Spotify. It was a pretty good episode.
And Oscar, how do you rate him?
DMX, I rate DMX as probably one of the top 20.
Top 20. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great loss then.
It is a great loss.
We lost two rappers. Can you guys tell us a little about, right before we lost Sean Madden and Betty White, two famous rappers.
Those are my favorite rappers, Betty White and John Madden.
No, I'm talking about some true hip hop artists, and it pains me whenever this happens because one of them, at least I'm aware, was a shooting. I don't know why this happens. Turf stuff, but can you guys tell us, maybe Alfred, about the two that we lost? Just not even in the last week.
Oh yeah, so one guy, he was in Tennessee. His name is Young Dolph. He wasn't like very, very popular like mainstream, but he was getting there. And some of these guys can't leave street life behind when they get rich, and it catches up to them. So it's an unfortunate situation.
But both guys were like giving back to their community. They didn't appear to be. They appear to be positive human beings. Great, just filled with life and stuff. So it's awful.
Yeah,
what's happening.
Some of the things that you do when you're younger or before you make it. Sometimes those things tend to stick with the people you did them to, or people are not gonna like you. It's reminiscent of the the Nipsey Hussle situation. That was the guy out in California, the rapper out in California, who, you know, a lot of people told him, hey, get out of the neighborhood. And he stayed in the neighborhood to give back and open a business and give people jobs and sell them clothes at discount prices. And, you know, he ran into somebody from his past that he didn't have too much of a good relationship, and old things came to a head, and that's how he met his demise. So
Can I mention the other side of the story? I was a booker in a music club called Gizzy's in New York for a good 3 or 4 years. We had a hip hop night. We never had one incident, never had one problem, never even had security. Okay, and it, just smooth as could be, just smooth as could be. Just great music, great people, all indie artists, and you know, unfortunately, you know, we got hit with that flooding in New York, and the club went under. You know, we just lost the club. But one night a week for the longest time, we had hip hop shows, and there was never an issue. So the idea that, you know, there's an immediate connection of violence and hip hop is not necessarily true either. You know, there have been incidents, but you know, there's been horrible incidents at rock shows also. At the Who show, a bunch of guys got trampled. Remember, Mike?
Yeah. And you had some of those artists you had that you would bring onto the show, our show legends. A lot of them are, you know, they're big now.
The goal is supposed to be you get in the game to get out the game. And what I mean by that is when you are, you know, a street thug or whatever, but your aspiration is to become a rapper, the idea is supposed to be you become a rapper to legitimize your business and legitimize your life and leave all that street stuff behind. But unfortunately, they carry the street into their rap career. And if it's in your rap career and you still street, the only 2 ways street life is going to get you is jail or in the grave. So you're supposed to get in the rap game and leave that behind. So jail or in the grave is not your option to become a legal, viable citizen who contributes to society, you know, in a way that provides for your family without having to sling drugs and without having to carry a gun or all that other kind of stuff like that. But unfortunately, they bring that with them. And when you bring that with them, you bring everything else that comes with it.
Wow, that's great stuff. Now, Oscar, I'm not as familiar with the origins of your career, and maybe a lot of our listeners don't know, you know, how you got started with Men on a Mission, and how did you get involved with that tag team in the WWF at the time?
Well, okay. I began, like right now, I have an album out as Casanova Ace. I was Casanova Ace before this album years ago, before my WWE career began. I was rapping in different areas and places with such people like, I mean, I even did something with Frank Sinatra. That's how
Really?
That's how diverse my career went. I was with a comedian named Andrew Dice Clay in Las Vegas. And in between, you know, doing shows with him, I was gambling over at Caesar's Palace. I was playing craps. In the middle of me gambling, there was a big commotion in the lobby. It was 2 weeks before WrestleMania 9 was happening. And they were at Caesar's Palace shooting vignettes. Vince McMahon, Macho Man Randy Savage, and a few others. So I saw the big commotion, and a colorful guy was coming through the casino, and I said, you know, it would be a lot of fun for me to go over and just do a quick rap for Macho Man Randy Savage, because I had the skill to do it extemporaneously right off the top of my head. So I went to Macho Man Randy Savage. I said, Mr. Savage, I just want to do a quick singing telegram for you. He said, go ahead, brother. So I did a rap for Macho Man, and Vince was standing right there. I put Vince in the rap. Jerry Lawler was standing right there. I put Lawler in the rap. Mr. Perfect was standing right there. Put him in the rap, and this was all in like a millisecond, a minute. And Vince told me as he was getting on the elevator to give him a call at his office that Monday, the following Monday. So the following Monday came, and I'm thinking, all right, get Pampers for the baby, go shopping. And oh, yeah, that's right, call Vince McMahon. Because, see, in life, a lot of people say, give me a call, we'll do lunch. I took it like that. So I called the WWF office, and Vince's secretary she was frantic. She was like, yes, Vince is expecting your call. He was hoping you'd call. He's going to call you back in a few minutes. And Vince called me. He was on the plane, and we stayed on the phone for about an hour. And Vince was like, it's going through my mind that you would probably make a good character here in the WWF. I'm thinking a manager. Let me get WrestleMania behind me, and then we're going to talk about this. So WrestleMania, he sent me a couple of tickets to WrestleMania. I got some VIP seats. I mean, it was a real cool deal. So about 3 weeks after WrestleMania, I get a call from the WWF, and they had me fly up to Connecticut to have a meeting. So I go up to Connecticut to have a meeting. They put me up at the Sheraton Hotel. The next morning, I came downstairs, and a car was there to pick me up. And inside the car was these two black guys. One was Mo, and one was Mabel. So we get to the WWF office, and I got to tell you this part. Y'all was talking about Mabel's size.
Yeah.
This is what I saw. The first time, this was the first time I saw him. He got out the car. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah.
It was like a circus attraction. This dude was, the word huge don't even cover it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So anyway, we go up to the office, and they had already thought this out. Vince told me my name was going to be Oscar. He told Mo his name was going to be Mo. He told Mabel his name was going to be Mabel because he said people you're going to dare people to make fun of your name being the size you are. And that's how Men on a Mission was born, just like that.
Do you think Vince or Pat Patterson that came up with the names Mo and Mabel and Oscar, or was it Vince himself?
I believe it was Vince with some help from the creative team at the time.
Because those guys were down. I went in and shot in Memphis at Jerry Jarrett's promotion.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I forget what names they were using, but they were there.
They were the Harlem Knights.
Yeah, exactly. And they were finessing because we knew they were going over. And at the time, Scotty Levy, Raven, was there as like the lead heel, and Lawler's kid, Brian Christopher, was one of the lead heels, and Jeff Jarrett was working obviously there. And I thought, man, these guys are colorful and exciting, and this territory is too tiny for them, of their talents and stuff, because they were over big time with the audience. And you added to that and made them even bigger. Yeah,
well, that was the thing. My initial conversation with Vince was he had to look for a wrestler for me to manage, and I'm thinking it was going to be one guy. But then when I got to the first meeting, it decided to turn out to be a tag team. So they saw them and got the idea that they would be a good fit for me to be with.
And did you ever actually have to get in the ring, or were you always managing them?
Mostly managing, but there were a couple of times where I got in the ring and took a few bumps. It didn't happen very often, but it happened, and it happened in grand fashion.
Did you did you actually take the training to become a wrestler, or did you get any background in wrestling at all before becoming?
Nothing at all. But what I will say is, while I was there, I had guys like Bret Hart and Owen and Doink the Clown, and of course Mo and Mabel. They were teaching me some things and how to take some bumps and do some moves. So I learned that way. But I had no formal training at all. I was a big wrestling fan coming up. My father had me watching wrestling since I was 9 years old. So imagine how marked out I was being among these.
Who'd you watch? Who were you watching back then?
Oh man, Andre the Giant was one of my favorites, and Dusty Rhodes was my favorite of all times. And then you had Bruno Sammartino. These are the guys that I watched in New York. Then when I went down south and watched it, which down in New York, in Florida and Georgia, it stayed on all day. That's when I got to see Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and Harley Race and Argentina Apollo. and a whole bunch of those guys.
A lot of Kevin Sullivan.
And Kevin Sullivan and the Freebirds. And back in New York, Mil Mascaras was my all-time favorite out of New York. And Bob Backlund, who is one of the guys, and I could name a bunch of them, but Bob Backlund was one of the guys that I got to actually work with that I watched on TV as a kid. Matter of fact, I just saw Backlund 2 weeks ago at a signing in Boston, and it just blew my mind. And it's exciting to this day. I'm still marked out.
Wow, that's great. That's really wonderful. What was the best bump you took from a wrestler while you were?
Oh, that's easy. We had a spot with Jeff Jarrett gave me a few of them. One that you really can see if you watch SummerSlam '94, was he threw me and I had enough sense to twist myself to land into the steel steps by my shoulder. But the one that stands out the most is he was supposed to just tap me as I was standing on the ring apron and I take my own bump. This bastard ran over me like a freight train, and I went flying off the ring and almost into the rail. I never got hit that hard in my life. It was like he was playing football. I said, "That's all right. I got you. I got you."
That's great stuff.
Tell us who that was.
Jeff
Jeff.
Oh, Jeff. Jeff did that. Jeff usually Jeff usually works late, so that's kind of weird.
Yeah, no, he hit me hard. I'll tell you one more. The very first one that got me was the Usos' father, Fatu Rikishi. He knocked the living hell out of me on my first match we had with the Head Shrinkers because he was trying to teach me a lesson not to be in the way when they was exiting.
I believe that. I've had my own run-ins with Rikishi. That's another story for another time. But it's good that you have fond memories of it. Were you ever hoping that the Men on a Mission would get a world title shot? And if so, were you looking forward to maybe being world champions at some point?
No, it's funny you asked that. We actually did. We won the titles in Prince Royal Albert Hall in London. We won them on a Friday, and by Monday we lost them.
Okay,
but we did have them for a minute.
Well, that's great. How did it feel to be? I didn't even know about that. I guess because it was such a short hold. But how did
they did that with the Rockers too one time? I wouldn't call it a phantom title change, but creative decides to go in a different way, and it sucks because I'm sure it's frustrating, really, the booking.
To answer your question, I'm gonna tell you a couple of reasons why it was phenomenal. Number one, I didn't know that was gonna happen, and you usually know when everything was gonna go on. I didn't know, so I'm like all the fans in the hall that got caught by surprise. I mean, they actually won 1, 2, 3. We got the belts. I was so excited that I ran into the belt head first, and I got a cut on my head, and I was bleeding. But I didn't care. But no, it was exciting, and it was exciting having the belt, taking pictures with the belts, being called the world champion. And now, even though it's just for a weekend, you go down in the history books as having the world titles. So that's
who did you beat? Who did you guys beat?
We beat Jacques and Pierre, the Quebecers.
Interesting. And you had no idea you were going over on them?
Nope, I had no idea.
Wow, with Jimmy Hart, right? Were they managed by Jimmy Hart at that time?
No, they were married by Johnny Polo.
Oh,
yes.
David.
David at the time.
Evan, I want to ask both of our guests a semi-difficult question, because Evan and I have for decades and decades talking about trying to get this business that's been traditionally a white male business into more diversity. It really needs it. We make some strides. Do you guys think we're really there yet? Because it was really upsetting with Roman Reigns last night having to pull out of the match with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
They take the strap off Big E, who is electrifying the crowds after not even 3 months. It really pissed me off. there's still not, in my mind, just being an old white dude who's covered the business for the magazine since 1966, that there's not more diversity on all levels. Yeah, there's X amount, and yeah, Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, two African American women, headlined a WrestleMania, when they broke it into 2 nights. But there seems to be so much more work. And wrestling is supposed to be a microcosm of society and stuff. And this country is completely effed up still, or worsening. But wrestling, what do you guys think? Let's start with LG. What do you think of this, and what can be done? Because it's run by creative people who maybe are way out of whack with young 24 years on demo, which is the most important demographic.
It's making strides, but there's still way more that can be done. I found it very interesting that Big E defeated Bobby Lashley to get that title. That was a first. Not only you get a African American champion, but the incumbent was an African American. I don't think any time in wrestling for the world title you ever seen such a thing. And then in the last 2 years alone, 3 African American world champions, because everybody, I know it was hot at the time, but everybody remembers Kofi Kingston's run.
Yeah.
So I mean,
by him and having him drop so quickly to Brock, and now they're hot shotting to have a match people want to see, Lashley against Brock, because they're 2 fantastic amateurs with all this history. But they needed to respect Big E, keep the title on him, and Kofi. The way they did that was not right either. Just a couple of seconds. Come on, you're destroying a loving movement of people that were really into Kofi Kingston, Kofi Mania. It still just irritates me, and like all of these guys, they just sort of languish. What they did with Keith Lee, who just had main event written all over him. If you watched NXT, African-American guy, fantastic. He was huge, but he moved like a cruiserweight, junior heavyweight, doing amazing Tiger Mask type stuff. And trained by Killer Tim Brooks, another guy we lost last year. It's so upsetting. And then he get part of those cuts where they were cutting husband and wife duos. Evan, you know the stats. How many workers got
They cut 82 wrestlers in 2021. 82.
I was shocked that we went through the holidays without Vince cutting some more folks.
Well, there's more cuts coming, and then there'll be cuts at WrestleMania like usual. So Oscar didn't get to see this because there wasn't this annual crap load of people let go immediately after WrestleMania that get future endeavored. Lyrical, I know you've been watching that. It's crazy. And the company, the woman who it was the CFO, the evening of, she did a teleconference call telling all the shareholders
record profit,
record quarter, the biggest quarter they've ever had, even during COVID. And then the next day she quit because she refused to announce publicly the ton of people that they were letting go, because it was not in sync with, you're going to say how much money you're making, but, oh, you don't have enough money to pay all these people supporting children and stuff.
Well, there's a couple of schools of thought on everything that you just said. First of all, if Big E is champion, I mean, the answer to that particular question is, and I'm saying this as an African-American man, it's not about black or white at this juncture when it comes down to that decision. You got Royal Rumble coming up, and they're taking a gamble and having it in St. Louis biggest venue, a stadium show, followed by WrestleMania in Dallas, another stadium show. So what has to be done is they have got to prime the program in order to put asses in seats. So you have to ask yourself a question. Are asses in seats going to be Big E against anybody, or is it going to be, bro, are you going to put your money where the money historically going, Brock Lesnar and a Bobby Lashley? And the answer is going to be a Brock Lesnar and a Bobby Lashley every time. Big E had a very good run. I'm glad of it. I'm glad of the run, but at this time, it's all about money. It's all about who's gonna do what, who's gonna do what with what, and like the mantra goes, what's best for business. And Brock Lesnar getting the title right now, hands down, I promise you, that's what's best for business.
That's a poignant point, you know. Did you ever get to a point with Men on a Mission where it became sort of obvious to you that the WWE was going to move on and sort of, you know, set you out and future endeavor you? Or was it a surprise when Vince came to you and said, you know, your time as a tag team is done? How did you find out with the WWE that you weren't going to be wrestling for them or managing them?
But by the time that came, it wasn't just a I'm being set out to pasture situation. I sat down with Vince on several occasions, and he asked me, "Did I want to wrestle?" The idea at first, let me digress. The idea at first was I was the main attraction to Men on a Mission. Everything was centered around me. It was supposed to have been I'll be with Men on a Mission, and then I was supposed to spin off and do some other stuff. That's how much faith Vince had in my talent, me, and the idea of me was. As time went on, like I said, he asked me, "Did I want to wrestle?" And I was frightened. I was, you know, scared out of my wits to be a wrestler because I didn't know what I was doing and all that. So I told him no. When it came down to Men on a Mission turning heel, there's a couple of things that happened. They asked me did I want to turn heel with them, and I told them no. And I told them no simply because I had this thing where, as an entertainer, a performer, or a TV personality, I was never ever going to sell out and be a negative influence in front of the kids that I spent my entire career telling them to say no to drugs and telling them to stay out of gangs and telling them the power of positivity, was my baby before it was anybody's.
Yeah, but being a heel is so much fun, man. It's really a lot of fun. I got to tell you, as a heel manager, I had a great time.
Expecting what he'd worked hard to achieve, though.
I know, and I worked hard to be a bad guy. It
was fun, but being a bad guy is not what I was going to say, especially at that magnitude of television. That wasn't what I was about. And I just wasn't gonna sell out no matter what the cost or situation was. So we amicably, pretty much parted ways. It's not like I just got fired because they wanted to keep us together. Now I will say this. I have said this and I will say it to my grave. Turning Men on a Mission heel at that particular time on that day to me, it was a grave mistake. Men on a Mission was at the apex of what we were doing, the positivity of it, the way we were over with the crowd, and everything like that. And that could have went on for much, much longer. It would have had greater effect, getting the tag titles again and doing bigger things the way we were, and then maybe turn them heel later.
That's kind of what I was going to wonder about, too, is that should Men on a Mission have a longer run? And
I honestly think so.
That's very interesting. Is there a team in particular you wish you could have faced or had maybe a feud against at the time?
I don't know. Everything. I would have thought a run against Shawn Michaels and Diesel when they were together would have been interesting at the time. More of a run against the Head Shrinkers because at that time those two guys were the most talented tag team and the toughest that was going on. So our matches against them to me were classic and didn't get the notice that it should have gotten. So yeah, I mean there's quite a bit that Men on a Mission could have did, but Vince did bring out a point that I can't ignore. Was that the tag team picture at that time was kind of shallow. So, he had to make some moves.
Interesting.
Alfred, do you have any questions for Oscar, wrestling or hip hop related?
Yes. So the one dying question I've been dying to ask you, Oscar,
Mhm.
the song that you rapped on the way to the ring for Men on a Mission, did you write that, or did somebody in the WWF office write those lyrics for you?
Oh no. Every time I went to the ring, okay, you had Men on a Mission, which was the song, which was the vocals on the Men on a Mission track. No, I did all that with Jim Johnston in the studio. But no, it was a different song tailored to wherever we was at that particular day, and I made all that up on the spot.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot of creativity.
Yeah, it
So
took
you
some brain power, but
so
it was fun.
so you were mostly like a freestyle battle rapper then.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming because it used the same instrumental, even the WrestleMania rap that used the same beat, you did that one too.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that's pretty.
That's
cool.
impressive. How did it feel to be part of a WrestleMania? And what was the build-up like to go?
Okay. There's an answer to that question, and we'll try to succinct as possible. When I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I went to Madison Square Garden with my dad. I would hear Howard Finkel announce Bruno Sammartino, Andre the Giant, and I had nosebleed seats. So life coming full circle is you have, 20 years later, I'm at Madison Square Garden, but now it's my turn, and Howard Finkel is announcing my name, and I'm coming out.
Wow.
And to be at Madison Square Garden, hearing Howard Finkel, who looked the same, sounded the same, and was the nicest guy you ever want to meet, announce you after listening to him announce your favorites when you was a kid in your nosebleed seats. Think about how full circle that make your life feel.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful story.
Yeah, it was great.
And so your story continues. Tell me about your how you're now releasing music, and we want to play your song. So tell us a little bit about the song we're going to hear, and then I'll play it for our fans.
I was happy being retired. I said it loud because I wanted my wife to hear me.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I knew named Greg Simmons that I met at an Academy Awards party that my manager, Norby Walters, threw. One of the top Academy Awards parties of the year every year. And I met Greg Simmons. And Greg was doing a TV show called Aspen. So he told me about it. I did a rap for him, got a job doing music for Aspen the series. Years later, 15 years later, like back in 2020, he came to me and said, he now has an organization called Staunch Moderates. And Staunch Moderates is an organization that's positive and attacks the political divide. And it's just a wonderful organization. So he said, to get the message out, I want to do a hip hop album. And the best hip hopper I know is, you, and he called me Casanova Ace, my rap name. So he called me up and said, I'm doing an album. You wanted you, and I'd love to have you on it. So I did it. I wrote also 14 songs in all. The album is called The First Realm. So it begs the question, whenever they ask Oscar, where is he now? Like, hey, we all get those, where are they now? Well, I can answer that now. Where are they now? I made this album. The song that you're about to play, Peace, just got 1 million views on YouTube. The other song on the record that I'm proud of, Socrates Cafe, we didn't get nominated for a Grammy, but we got nominated by the Grammy committee to get a nomination.
It's still pretty good.
This is my first night, and these are songs that I all wrote in 15 minutes. I'm proud of the album because Jeffrey Skunk Baxter, he's the guitarist. He founded member of Steely Dan. He was a member of Doobie Brothers and all that. He's on the record. CJ Vanston from Tears for Fears. These are all groups that I grew up listening to. The Doobie Brothers. These are all groups that I grew up listening to. So I'm marked out again in life because working with legends on my album, and yeah, it's just dynamite to do it.
Wonderful.
And then you got DJ Staunch, which is a Bigfoot mascot that Greg created, and he's an actual character, and he's on the record. So when it's time to tour and do shows, he'll be the DJ. So it's great.
Well, that's a wonderful setup. Let me get it going here. Let me share the screen, and hopefully I can get this to work correctly. It's always a wonderful challenge to. And let's go here. And
Al Green's Line the Family Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that I could freestyle or that it meant something till like a couple of years after I was actually doing it. I was doing it and wasn't really paying attention. And then I did it, and then I found out was it hit the 1 million view mark the other day, and I can't be more proud. My wife sings on the song. She sings the chorus. She's an amazing singer, and it just was a labor of love.
What's your wife's name or her stage name?
No, her stage name, her name was just Tamara.
Okay. I'm writing this up for one of my magazine articles, so I like keep the legend.
Yep, Tamara Gerard, Garard. She sings on the song, and yeah.
Can you spell that again?
What
was it? T-A-R?
Yep, Tamerra, and then Garard.
Oh, okay.
hey guys, let me try one more time. I think I might have figured it out. Sorry about this, but I don't like to quit on on technology as much as it drives you crazy. I want to get this through. I want to get this to work though. So here, let's try this.
There we go.
Hey.
The election had us all concerned. Some people got blood boiling, get burned. Like to purge the urges to release the beast, to rob and steal and forget peace. The whether black, white, or brown or green. Remembering Martin Luther King had a dream that we would all get along and love one another. Remembering that we are our brothers. Protesting, yeah, that's fine. But remember one thing, there is a lie. Letting all negativity cease. Remembering one thing, and there's peace.
Everybody, can't you see? I am you and you are me. One people under G.O.D. Why can't we have peace?
The election had us all concerned. Some people got blood boiling, get burned. Like to purge the urges to release the beast, to rob and steal and forget peace. So whether black, white, or brown or green. Remembering Martin Luther King had a dream that we would all get along and love one another. Remembering that we are our brothers. Protesting, yeah, that's fine. But remember one thing, there is a lie. Letting all negativity cease. Remembering one thing, and there's peace.
Everybody, can't you see? I am you and you are me. One people under G.O.D. Why can't we have peace? Why can't we have peace? Why can't we have peace?
All right.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, Alfred, you are the hip hop connoisseur, the historian. What's your take on the video?
I like the song. The flow, it has like a very old school flow to it, reminiscent of something of maybe like an MC Shan, a Marley Marl, or a Sugar Hill Gang. I liked it.
Oh,
Who was
thanks, man.
Oscar? Who was the pianist? Excellent piano. That was beautiful there.
You know what? I am not sure. I do not know.
All right, your wife was singing, was beautiful. The imagery. Was that the Abominable Snowman? It was trying to figure out.
No, that was Staunch. That was DJ Staunch that I've been talking about.
Ah,
Wow, quite a character. And yeah, no, that was a really great video and certainly a message that I think everyone needs to think about with 2022. You know, certainly didn't accomplish that as much as we could have in 2020 and 2021. So, you know, I hope that maybe that's a message people can carry with them.
well,
Yeah,
I
I
want to
have
ask
a- I have
both
a
these
lot of
guys,
high
then
hope.
go to Evan. How can we bring this country together? It looks like 1860 all over again. How are we going to get people together? This whole country.
You brought up 1860 because you remember 1860.
Well, I'm thinking, yeah.
obviously.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, the country's at odds with each other. You know, it's like you can love somebody and they have a different opinion. It doesn't have to be like at war, the way it feels like it is all the time now, and it's getting worse. We need Oscar's song and video and message to.
You can't even talk AEW versus WWE without people getting into a war right now. Are you kidding me? Forget politics. It's even wrestling. People are ready with knives and broken bottles and pitchforks and torches, just
But
arguing over what wrestling fed to watch.
Oscar's correct. The bottom line is asses and seats. Money rules. Anything else takes a lesser role, which is sad, but asses and seats. That's the word.
Speaking of AEW, I do want to mention that they have implemented an excellent program. For years, I have been preaching to WWE and trying to put together a program where wrestlers would have some place to go when they had when they needed therapy or they had mental issues, because ever since the 90s, wrestling is something that's been taxing on the brain. I mean, there are a lot of things that go on, which cause
Well, look at
mental
Daphne
issues.
earlier this year.
And that was the catalyst that made AEW implement a program where they have hired an on-board psychiatrist. Evan, you know him, Dr. David Reese got the job.
Oh, yeah.
He's finalizing the contract to be the on-board psychiatrist for AEW. So anytime any of the talent needs somebody to speak to for counseling, therapy, or psychotherapy, they can go to Reese, and I'm going to be one of his assistants for mentoring.
That's great.
That's great. That is wonderful.
One thing that's a positive that maybe you guys can both comment is now we're getting promoters that really go out there. They have like a heart. They're different. They break the molds, whether it's Tony Khan of AEW or rocker from Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, with his new NWA. It's heartwarming to see that. And people are saying it's like we've reinvented the territories, my territories that Evan and I and Oscar obviously lived through in a weird way. It's like the territories, but it isn't. But people are cooperating. People may not be cooperating in the United States, but they are in the wrestling world, aside from WWE, which is, its own entity. But AEW, Impact, MLW, NWA, etc., New Japan, CZW, and whatever that new group with Nick Gage that's like selling out the Hammerstein Ballroom. It's incredible. There's talent trading, folks going back and forth. That's very cool to see. And then people, being able, the Daphne thing, the horrific thing there, and then Hikaru Shida in Japan taking her own life a year before Daphne did.
When I was working on The Wrestler with Aronofsky, Larry Sweeney was on set all the time, and I would sit and talk to the guy for hours. And next thing you know, he killed himself, and it was heartbreaking. Guy was sharp and intelligent, talented. You know, he was in his late 20s. So I think it's great that Oscar and David Reese, I know David, you know, I think it's great that you guys are doing this because we've all lost.
Something like that has been around for Crash Holly. He might still be around.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Exactly. I mean, you know, you need things like a hotline where guys can call and talk to other guys, which they can relate to. Maybe some support groups, you know, whatever it is that's needed to, you know, prevent people from feeling like they're alone and then they don't have no choice but to not want to be here no more and then do something drastic. So yeah, it's about, you know, it's been long coming. It's about time, but it is time. And so now I'm ecstatic that we have it.
That's a real advance.
This morning on CBS Sunday Morning, they did a special on Little Nas X, who's an admitted pro wrestling fan, and AEW. Who would think that a major mega wrestling company would have two trans wrestlers in it, as they do with Nyla Rose and a Sonny Kiss? We never thought we'd have that, you know. So, you know, guys like what was his name, Ev, that took his life, who was a gay wrestler, who was from WCW.
Canyon.
Yeah, Chris Canyon, which was such a horrific story. Then he went to Vince and had some problems. He was future endeavored. So all of these people that were let go last year.
I can't see you guys anymore. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
I can't see you guys anymore.
Oh.
We're seeing you.
Yeah, we're seeing. Sure that's all that matters is we're seeing you and
okay.
Alfred. But yeah, so many of those people who were let go, I'm sure X percentage of them, there's got to be some depression. There were 3 husband and wife couples all let go, like, Keith Lee and his wife, who was supremely talented and Impact Women's World Champion as Jade. Yeah, so thank God that you guys have gotten this doctor in there, because we need it. Stressful business on the body, stressful on the mind and the heart. And if you let go, particularly at the holidays, you let go these masses of talent.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That's bad. The holidays.
The holiday time.
I wanted to talk about something on a slightly different note with both Alfred and Oscar. Do you prefer Oscar or Casanova Ace at this point?
No, you can call me Oscar.
All right. First of all, I have one thing that I've always wanted to know. Does Oscar have a last name?
Okay, well, first off, Oscar.
NBA star Oscar Robertson?
Yeah, Oscar is the name Vince gave me. My name really is Greg.
But did Oscar ever actually get a last name?
No,
did the character of Oscar ever get a last name? Okay, that I can sleep at night now because that's something that's bothered me for decades.
Let's start to Evan. Evan's not been able to hardly talk. Let's start to Evan. I'm sure he wants to ask Alfred something too.
Yeah.
But I just had one other question to ask, and then Evan, it's all yours. But I wanted to just ask both of you about the involvement of music and wrestling and how you feel like what's the trend of the future of music and wrestling? Because when wrestling started out, music wasn't even involved in it, and now it's such a big part of it. Where do you see its connection moving in the future as far as music's involvement in wrestling?
So I'm by far the youngest in this room right now, but I remember my parents had old tapes of wrestling from like the 70s and the 80s, and I remember the only guys that got music was like Sergeant Slaughter would have his Marine Corps hymn play, or like Hulk Hogan would get Real American, but everybody else would just walk to the ring and the bell.
You got Eye of the Tiger to start with.
Well, yeah.
The first wrestling music was Gorgeous George, Pomp and Circumstance in the late 30s, 40s. Then Buddy Rogers had Nature Boy play by Nat King Cole. And then we had really nothing until Bad Bad Leroy Brown, first in Dallas and Houston. Then he came to LA in 77, 78, had the Jim Croce song, Bad Bad, Leroy Brown. Finally, then the Freebirds really ushered in that whole thing in 79, 80 on Georgia Championship Wrestling with Leonard Skinner. And then everybody started having the entrance music. Obviously, Hulk Hogan first with Eye of the Tiger, then they had his own song that Cyndi Lauper and her then boyfriend wrote, and had what's his face, the other rocker sing it.
Dillinger. Rick Derringer.
Rick Derringer was the singer.
But continue on, guys, and what you were saying.
So for music to be at its infancy, being used in wrestling back then to what it is now, I feel like and everything gets a theme, from a wrestler to even the shows have their own individual themes. The pay-per-views have their own themes. Like even video packages get their own specific music now. So I feel like music is like the mood setter as to or the soundtrack of what you're about to see or what's about to happen. So I equate it to like a movie soundtrack almost.
And how do you feel about that, Oscar?
Well, I mean, music and wrestling is here to stay. I mean, more than half of it is hip hop based, and I pat myself on the back because I feel like I'm one of the pioneers of the rap and hip hop and wrestling integration, which is prominent in more than half the themes of the wrestlers that's coming out. You got other wrestlers. They rapping, coming out. Like, okay, where have we seen that before?
But you were the first, because PN News and WCW in what, 92, that was kind of disgraceful. It was pretty horrific. Yeah, you were the first legit, serious artist.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But no, I mean, it's like, seeing a wrestler come out and there's no theme music at all, that wouldn't even make sense now. The people would be like, it identifies who's coming out, number one. It adds to the fervor of them coming out. It adds to getting the people up on their feet. I mean, take a look at take a look at who's the guy that raises his hand and everybody just loses their mind? I have a brain fart. No, not Cena.
There's Shinsuke Nakamura, and then there's the other guy.
No, the guy that's the demon that does the
Finn Balor.
Finn Balor. Yeah, everybody lose their mind when Finn Balor come out and this ain't even rap or hip hop, but they lose their mind when Finn Balor come out and do that. Even I like it. I'm in my living room with my hands up when he come out. And then Shinsuke Nakamura, his song was so catchy. Everybody was oh, I mean, it's exciting. I mean, it's great. And then the all-time greatest theme, this ain't even a rap song, The Undertaker. The lights go out and you hear that gong, everybody loses their mind. So how could you possibly take that out of the equation?
No, that's great.
AEW, where the audience, I mean, the WWE stuff is great, but when they sing to Jericho's song or Jungle Boy, right, the music is such an integral part of that. It's very.
Man, you said it.
I have one final question on my end. This would be a missed opportunity if I didn't ask it. I see many people disparaging hip hop. And to me, it's a great art. And I have plenty of friends who are great indie hip hop artists. And like I said, I've booked it. Who do you guys consider the Mount Rushmore of hip hop? Who are the 4 greatest hip hop artists?
I'm letting him answer first.
From my vast knowledge of hip hop, the top 4, in my opinion, in no particular order, I would have to go Nas, Jay-Z, Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac Shakur.
There you go.
Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, Grandmaster Flash of the Furious 5, and Run DMC. Because I mentioned Run DMC especially because Run DMC brought it to that next level. Run DMC brought it where it wasn't to where it started going. I mean, they really, with the whole, setting the trend on MTV, and then Run DMC was responsible really for getting white folks more involved in the rap game than any other group. That
I was going to say their mix with Aerosmith changed everything.
Oh man!
At first it was a hit, and then when they did with Aerosmith, it was even bigger because they hit that other audience, that other demographic.
Right.
I saw Run DMC at the Garden in the 80s. Those guys were rock stars. They were huge.
Exactly.
They were huge.
They were big time.
Yeah.
So tell us what's in the future for both of you gentlemen while we have a couple minutes left.
Plug their stuff. Plug everything, guys.
Rap Lab podcast. New episodes every Sunday. The episodes come out at 12:05 a.m. Eastern time. So as soon as 5 minutes after midnight, the new episodes they drop. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well, and Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you can get your podcast.
And Oscar, yeah, tell us what's coming up apart from this wonderful rap song that we just heard, and we'll definitely want our viewers to click on it on YouTube.
Give that song title again, Oscar.
I'm sorry?
Give that song title again so everybody knows it.
That song title is Peace. It's on the album The First Realm by Casanova Ace and DJ Staunch. For me in 2022, there's more music that has to come out from this album, The First Realm. I look forward to going to the studio making more music. I'm going to have a podcast with the Staunch Moderates that's going to start coming on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is the Staunch Moderates. We have got a football-based video that's coming out called, The Bigfoots Are Coming. That's going to be the next big video coming out. Looking forward to everybody hearing that. I had a ball making that song. And then my work with Dr. Reese with AEW was going to be coming down the pike this year. So it's going to be a big 2022. Also, I've got to mention my wife as a pastor. We have opened up a church here in the Georgia area. So we're going to be having services on Sunday and Thursday. She's spearheading that. So, yeah, it's just going to be busy. And, yeah, I'm really excited about this. I am doing a thing with Nikita Koloff this Thursday in Royston, Georgia. I'm looking forward to that. I am a big fan of Nikita Koloff. Never met him, but I'm looking forward to working with him and doing something on a spiritual level with him this weekend. So that's going to be great.
Wow, again, Oscar, do you have a website or Facebook you want to send people to?
My Facebook name is Greg Gerard. My real name, Greg Gerard, Garard. Visit me on Facebook and any time. I'll answer you.
That is great. And also your website, Alfred. What?
So we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's just Rap Lab Pod, all one word.
Rap Lab Pod. Can't wait to
that is great. That is great. You gentlemen have been fantastic. I wish you nothing but the best of 2022 for both of you. And we'd love to have you back on the show when you got other projects in the works you want to promote them.
Well, I want to thank y'all for having me. You guys had great questions. Evan, it was great to see you. Great to meet new friends. I wish you all the luck with your podcast, my man.
Thank you.
I'll be looking out for it.
Thanks so much.
Everyone, have a great and safe new year. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year.